Welcome to The Human Element, presented by Whisk. I'm your host, Barb Biden, and in each episode, I sit down with CHROs and senior HR leaders to explore how AI, innovation, and human insight are reshaping the future of HR. We'll explore how technology is reshaping leadership, strategy, and the role of HR by sharing candid stories, practical ideas, and strategic perspectives to help you shape the future. The Human Element is brought to you by Whisk, the leader in agentic HR and creator of Harper, the world's first AI HR generalist. Learn how Harper can resolve up to 80% of routine HR tasks autonomously. Learn more about Whisk at whisk.com. Welcome to The Human Element. Today, I have Jason Desentz, the Chief Human Resources Officer at Toshiba Americas, with me. Jason is a seasoned global people leader known for transforming underperforming units into high-performing teams, leading large-scale workforce transformation, and bringing a practical, results-first lens to AI, talent strategy, and culture building. Thank you so much for hopping on with me today, Jason.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate being here.
I am looking forward to talking. I love a practical approach, and I love when we get to start with a practical question at the beginning. You've said that you favor a cautious, thought-out approach to AI. So how are you framing Toshiba's AI strategy so that it is practical and focused on those real outcomes and not the hype?
Yeah, the challenge with a lot of HR professionals in the AI space is really thinking about it from a business perspective sometimes rather than what their really end result is. For me, it's about how do I build the ROI case, right? Because with AI, it's not cheap. So the way I've been able to at least approach it is having spoken with many CHROs myself and just getting a lay of the land and their experience of some of them that have gone first. What I've learned is if you focus on the ROI and show at least one component as you introduce AI and show its value, then the adoption rate for other areas of using AI will be probability higher. So from that regard, what I've done as far as selling the use case is really showing the ROI. For example, in recruitment is what I've learned is one of the first areas any HR organization should consider introducing AI for many different reasons. One, it's the lowest impact to the overall business because two things when I approach anything I'm implementing, whether it's AI or anything else, two things have to occur. One, I have to have minimum or little to no disruption of the business. And then is it improving the employee experience? So if I have those two guideposts as I think about any implementation, whether it's AI or not, I'm usually golden. So going back to the AI element, if I start with recruitment, I find that it's probably an easier ROI case for me to sell to not only to our finance leaders, but also I can show its value quicker. And I think speed of adoption is really something that people need to consider with AI. And then also think about the last 10 years in HR. We've really been reducing the number of HR systems to get to a single HCM, but now here comes AI and they're like, oh, bolt on another bot, bolt on another bot. And we're going to go right back to where we were before, managing at least an average of 8 different systems. And that's going to cause a lot more challenges and a lot more cost. Again, it's not real business savvy. The reason we're doing it is streamlining efficiency, and then again, improving that employee experience.
Yeah, I love the guideposts, right? It's like demonstrate ROI, but minimum to no to low disruption of the business, and then an improved experience for the team. Love it. What foundations, Jason, are you building to raise literacy and enable smart adoption? I know we had talked about the Toshiba University. What are you doing that way?
Yeah, we've actually introduced Toshiba University over the last year with a lot of success. And we've adopted a new LMS system using Adobe. And then we've done, like most organizations, bought a course catalog. We bought it through Open Sesame. I've used Cornerstone before, Skillsoft, all those kind of functions. We're actually getting people what we're calling AI ready, meaning we're going to be doing a AI ready course where people can learn all about AI, starting with ChatGPT, and we are Microsoft shop. So Copilot is really our big push, but the adoption of understanding AI first before any organization starts to use it is really important. So we are creating AI champions out throughout the organization that can be really folks that we can count on, kind of like mentors and champions by department or by organization. And they're going to be training the trainer. And then from there, we're going to be creating open courses that people can take through our new LMS system. And that is going to at least get people understanding what is it? Most people are like, what is AI? If you're depending upon your generation, you have probably a different interpretation. If you're probably a Gen Xer like me, you're thinking of Skynet and Terminator, and you're thinking of it's going to take over the world. But if you're of my kids' age and Gen Z, they're like, yeah, duh, we've been using this for a while. I've been my son's been doing it to type some of his papers up and then just kidding. But some of the kids have been using it for a very long time. We're as Gen Xers are really, we need some basics first so that way we can build upon it to make it more meaningful when we actually try to incorporate it into our businesses.
Totally. I love getting AI ready. And are you doing anything fun to have those champions identify themselves, or how are you finding those folks who are going to be the champions?
It's interesting because Toshiba's been doing this for a while already. They're pretty forward thinking and it's quite an amazing group. At one point, Toshiba, I think, held some of the largest patents in the world. Like they had so many because they're a very innovative organization. So naturally, we've had people bubble up. Obviously, a lot of folks in our IT group. I have a gentleman that works for me. He's amazing running our talent management group. He's huge into AI and he's learning day by day. I encourage my staff to talk to other HR professionals to learn from them. We obviously use things like Gartner to do some internal research as far as baselining. However, we also, like I said, those conferences and those organizations that you try to get AI ready, there's so many putting on things to learn from. A lot of our folks are just naturally bubbling up through the organization and we're latching onto them. And then we're going to start this training coming up real soon here.
That sounds awesome. And you talked about the bolt-ons a minute ago. So after a decade, right, of HCM consolidation, AI does bring bots and bolt-ons, right, as Frankenstein, could be Frankenstein. How do you avoid AI bloat while continuing to preserve the employee experience that's so important for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think like as I mentioned earlier, I was at a conference once on a panel, and me and this other panelist, great people, of course, but we couldn't have been on more opposite ends. The question came up is, what would you tell someone about AI to do right now? And this other panelist says, run right towards it. And I'm like, I'd be cautious. It's like a horror movie. It's October, right? So you don't want to walk into the dark room right away. You want to listen a little bit, make sure, see what if is it right to move in? Is it not? I think we need to adopt it. Don't get me wrong, but we need to be strategic about its adoption. We need to show again if you the ROI from a financial a component from the business side, and then is it really improving the employee experience? Because how many times have you done performance management and people tell you it's the greatest thing ever? They got this tool, but it's 20 pages long. The practicality of it just doesn't make sense, right? Is a manager really going to be willing to sit and go through 20 pages? Same with AI. Everyone has a solution, but you have to ask yourself, how complex is that solution? Is it scalable for when you continue to grow? And is it something you actually will use that will create meaningful value, again, to the business and the employee experience? So those are the things, the trappings that people sometimes forget because it's not necessarily FOMO. The other part of AI is FOBO, which is fear of being obsolete. People are scared that it's going to take over their jobs. I don't think that's the case. Again, I'll use my own generation, Gen X. We were of the generation of robotics in manufacturing, where I come from in the automotive world originally. It was going to take over the world. People's jobs are going to go away. Oh my gosh. That didn't happen. What actually happened? Sure, some jobs were attrited out, but new jobs were created, right? New ways to do the work. We had to train the robots. We had to maintenance on the robots. And it actually just shifted the way we do work. That's AI. So to me, the approach to AI has got to be somewhere similar, where it's like, what skills are we going to learn that are new and transition to? And then what are actually some things that probably can go away? And I think every HR person would never want to fill out an I-9 manually ever again. So I think if you think of simple tasks like that, I think we should think about the simple things. It's if you do an impact effort matrix, let's focus on the low hanging fruit first for AI to show its capabilities. And then let's start working on the high effort, high impact ones. And then that's where you got to be a little bit more strategic. So it's not a linear approach to AI. It's low hanging fruit. And then let's focus on some of the higher effort things that it can actually solve for you.
Yeah, super interesting. I've heard some leaders talk about I need to figure out my whole HR tech stack before I can make a move. And I don't hear you saying that at all with being cautious. What I hear you saying is find a big item where you're sure it's going to have an impact. You're sure it's going to have an ROI. It's not going to cause disruption. It's going to improve the employee experience and push on that. And you had given the recruiting example. I think there's other examples in like
Yeah, of
the
course.
HR administrative world, the stuff stuff that you just mentioned, it's like doing that, right? And growing and building from there, which seems so smart, right? It's like you can't go in either direction completely. Don't build Frankenstein, but don't be paralyzed to take action on something that is going to make a dent in how you work in a very positive way and actually free your teams up to do work that they would prefer to be doing besides putting people on video to do a 9-9 and hold their ID up to the camera. I've seen that show before. I think one thing in a larger company, the idea of proof of concept or running pilots is probably big in your world. How do you structure those types of exercises so that you can demonstrate ROI, prove value, and be trusting that you're moving forward in the right direction before you scale?
You said the right word first, trust. So I have to have the trust first before I can really introduce anything. And how do I build that trust really? So I focus on how to build the trust first. And me, it's through a lot of influencing techniques as it relates to, especially in Toshiba, that sometimes can be a little bit conservative in some of their decision making. Albeit they're very willing to do new things. Like I said, they're very innovative on one end, but they're also sometimes conservative on some implementation of another. I think that's just a cautionary means that they practice. Now, having said that, to me, it's really about building the case for. I have a current system right now, not AI. I'm introducing a recognition award program at the moment for Toshiba. The proof of concept really is, hey, trust me in this. Here's the value. Here's the why. Here's why we need to do this. Again, it's building on a cost benefit analysis as well, showing the ROI in that regard. Say, look, we currently spend this on rewards and recognition, but it's piecemeal. It's not necessarily streamlined. It's not necessarily something I can measure really easy in a dashboard. I also think about measuring the success of any program I put in place. Plus, I have an 80-20 rule. I have to build a program around 80% of the population and deal with the 20. Otherwise, I'm going to be in paralysis analysis, right? And I'll never implement anything. So there's a little bit of trust that has to start first. Once I get that trust, then I'm like, look, here's what I'm trying to do. Here's why I'm trying to do it. Here's the benefits. Here's the value to the business. And here's the timeline for implementation and the impact it's going to cause on you. That way they see a couple things. They see the cost. Yes. Okay, Jason, here's what we're spending today. Here's what you're saying you're going to spend tomorrow. Here's the value we're going to get because we're streamlining what we're doing. You're actually making it easier for our leaders to use. You're making it easier for us to measure, but yet the impact of the program is going to be a lot more because it offers more perks and tools and tricks with the new recognition program versus I got a vendor that does acrylics for 5, 10 year, 15. I got this point system where you can get some gift cards here. I partnered with a single program for a group that does all of that in one, has a recognition online program. You can use your phone for it. So it actually has a lot more features for cheaper cost. But too often we set and forget the Ron for Peel,
Yep.
and we don't go back and relook at some of the things that we've implemented and go, wow, can that be better? Look, most of your top leaders out there, innovators, weren't really innovators. They were iterators. So I come from the automotive industry. Henry Ford didn't invent the car. What he invented was a better way to build the car for a cheaper price. And then he made his fortune off of that. So I think we need to be iterators, not necessarily innovators of processes. And proof of concept is just one of those ways.
Yeah, and I'm going off road here because you can't say set it and forget it and bring up Ron Popeil and have me not come back to it. So I actually do. I think that one of the set it and forget it things that teams are running into when implementing AI are all of those things historically that we might have set it and forget it. And then you go back and you're like, what is that how we're doing that thing, right? And we're noticing opportunity for improvement. So I feel like opportunity to evolve existing processes, legacy processes that we just maybe have set and forget a little bit. Are you finding as you're implementing some of these new tools and programs, AI or otherwise, that it's also giving you an opportunity to look at ways to evolve how you've been doing things historically?
Yes, one of the things. So actually, I say set, forget, reflect. I added a new little
Love it.
element because
Love it.
I think it's a continuous improvement thing, and I'm a Lean Six Sigma guy, so we
Hmm.
always think about continuous improvement. So in order for us to be proactive, we need to look back. Sometimes not always look forward. And when I look back, I'm saying, how's that working for us? Do we get the value we were thinking? Is it actually improving people's lives? Again, remember those two guideposts, right? I constantly ask my team, should we tweak it? And or Peter Drucker, who's the leadership guru of the godfather of leadership, he always said there's one concept companies tend to forget, and it's planned abandonment. Is it not working where I have to abandon the idea and try something completely new? We never want to say, I'm my bad. We never want to say that I thought that was going to work, but boy, did I miss that. I tell people this all the time, including my kids. I expect you to make mistakes. It's what you do after that defines you. And if I made a mistake, what defines me is like, okay, brush myself off. Let me try something, or let me reiterate it again and let me see if it can make it better. Or just say, own the mistake and say, my bad. I have a whole completely another direction. We tried it. We meant well. However, we need to abandon this because it's not meeting my two guideposts.
Totally. It is never too late to do the right thing, is what I say. Definitely doubling, like, it's like you're never too far along to go, this is not the right path and we need to shift. And I think sometimes we get caught up in like a sunk cost fallacy, right? Like we're too far gone. And I would argue if you continue down that path, you'll only be further gone probably and not in the place you want to be. So I love the idea of Toshiba as a 150-year-old startup in that environment, right? What I read in that is fast moving, right? And very continuous improvement focused, always on the move and always evolving. So how do you balance urgency, day-to-day operations, and if I read my notes correctly, 200 plus HR projects while
Yeah.
still building a high
Yeah.
performance culture?
I probably drive my staff nuts. In fact, I do probably, but I do it in a good way. Like I love a fast-paced environment. I came to Toshiba because of that and because of their innovative ways. And they are always trying to think about what's next. We always say, how do we make the world a better place? And we also, one of our values, core values, is create together. So when we constantly are continuous improvement environment, it allows for more creativity, but it also allows people and all ideas to come to the table. Yes, it is a challenge, and it's not for everybody. If you're here to coast, yeah, Toshiba's not your place. My organization is not your place. But also what I also value in what we do is it offers opportunities for my personal team to develop. One thing is, if I think about my own personal career for a moment, I didn't it's probably easier for me to talk about which chairs I didn't sit in HR versus which ones I did. I've been
Hmm.
blessed to be rotated into many different chairs. However, there's a couple of chairs I haven't actually sat in as a job, payroll and benefits. I don't think I would have ever wanted to, for my fast pace and my ADHD, to keep me going in either of those two. However, how did I get experience though, even though I didn't sit in those chairs? Through project work. So I had the privilege of, in many different organizations, if there was a benefits project, they needed an extra pair of hands and you were allowed to volunteer for it. I said, I want to volunteer because I want to learn about benefits. I want to learn about payroll. So I not only through these projects, create new ways of improving in Toshiba and offering new programs and services, but also it's a great way for my business partners, my comp people, my benefits people to learn about other areas that they've never been exposed to. And it's a great career development opportunity without them actually having to sit in the chair. So I think it's really important it's a double positive for me because I get to do all these great things, but also people get to learn from them. And it really is enhancing their skill sets. So it is crazy, but it's a fun crazy. And I love new ideas. So I always say to folks, if you don't speak up now and you want a Monday night quarterback, that ain't going to work. So
Nope. Obligation to speak up, right? That's what your
absolutely.
voice is in the room for. It sounds a
Yeah.
lot like you've used some of what has benefited you in your career in terms of growth, right? They're reaching in on different projects as a way to structure how you think about growing and developing your own team as well, which is it's cool to pay that learning that you received in your career forward with your own team. So I love that. I mean, I could keep asking questions all day. This is a fun conversation. We have a little lightning round though at the end of each episode. So I'm going to hit you with some quick hit questions. So what is one misconception that you think HR leaders have about AI adoption?
I think one of the biggest misconceptions is if they're not doing it, they're not leading in a progressive organization. I think that's not correct. I think they need to really self reflect on what's good for their business. And when you're ready, you can adopt AI. You don't have to necessarily be the first in. Sometimes it's not always good to, and I'm again, auto guy. Sometimes you don't want to buy the first generation car. You might want to buy the second.
I have one. I have one
Well,
of those first generation electric cars, so I actually hear you in
sometimes
that
there's
regard.
bugs in the first generation. Let the second generation get to it.
God bless software in cars. Yes. One metric that you trust most when judging an AI pilot's success.
I would say utilization rate. And are we using it to its max capacity and are we getting the value out of it? So if, let's say, for example, it's something I'm going to use for manager self-services, let our managers actually using the AI function that I put in place. Are we actually using, if it's recruiting, is it really giving us the top 10 candidates that it says it's going to? So utilization rate and its effectiveness and its final results.
Awesome. This one I'm super curious given where we started the conversation. So this is a little game called Keep One and Drop the Rest. So would you choose platform consolidation or best of breed AI bot, and why?
That's a great question, but my first instinct is to say platform consolidation because, again, I think it's important we streamline and are we making it better for the business? And are we improving employee experience? And are managers able to use it and not be troubled by it and cumbersome? HR could be cumbersome.
Got it. Yeah. And what if the AI bot could span range of tasks that your core HCM could do? So if you had platform consolidation and you could have AI assist your team with everything across what's handled in the HCM, does that feel any different? That doesn't feel
Yes,
like Frankenstein to me. That's what I'm
that's
trying
a
you.
little bit different. I have talked to some AI partners that do that, and that one to me is, if I can hire, the way I look at it, if I can hire an AI bot, I train the AI bot, and it actually becomes a member of my team, and it's a resource. Absolutely.
So hiring your first AI team member maybe is a better way to look at it. I love it. So let me try and take us home with a couple of takeaways and see how I did with this. I think when it comes to AI adoption, we talked about demonstrating ROI and having two pillars: low to no disruption, and then improvement to the team member experience. So that was a big takeaway, I think. We also talked about getting your organization AI ready. So get AI ready, and that this is foundational, right? If the team is not like AI aware, if you're not rolling out learning programs and making people fluent enough to be able to absorb this stuff, that is going to be a problem. So start there. And then the last is proof of concept through pilot. But I also loved your mentality around you've got to build it for the 80% and then deal with the
Deal with the
20,
20.
right? So deal with the 20. Love it. It was awesome talking to you today. I'm going to ask for one last piece of advice. So one last piece of advice for HR leaders who are just starting to think about their AI journey.
I have a 3-word phrase I use a lot: listen, learn, and lead. When you're getting on your AI journey, listen to about what the basics are of whatever platform you're looking at for whatever service. Really actively listen and then start to learn about its adoption rate, start to learn about some of the customer experiences and asking for ways that you can talk to those customers to try to, if they're open, and then lead by the sense of asking even more questions by saying, have you considered in your adoption? Start asking questions. It's like people are afraid to talk to doctors because they feel like they're too dumb or they don't know the knowledge. But honestly, I question all the time. And I think be curious about AI, not just in the sense of its utilization, but its adoption rate, its implementation process. It's how are leaders of outside of HR seeing what you're putting in place from AI? What's the impact there? And because too often it's a shiny new toy and we get excited by it, but we actually don't realize, is it actually working? So be curious is what I would say. My last phrase that I always tell people: how come we start off life as a question mark and end as a period? We need to go back to being the question mark and continues to ask questions all about AI. There's nothing wrong with it. You're not stupid. Just go. Keep asking.
Be
That's my advice.
curious. Be curious.
Be curious.
So we started with practicality, ended with practicality. So many good, useful things for folks to take away from this episode. So thanks for joining me today,
Of
Jason.
course.
This was fun.
Thanks again for having me. I really enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us on The Human Element, presented by Whisk. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to follow The Human Element wherever you get your podcasts. I'm Barb Biden. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.